Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Brass Junkies. I'm your host, Andrew Hitz, and I am joined by five good friends and Kevin Gebo. But it's, no, that's not true. It's six good friends. I need to very quickly, before I make more fun of Kevin, I need to thank Parker Mouthpieces for providing the hosting for the Brass Junkies. Parker Mouthpieces offers fine, customizable component mouthpieces for horn, trombone, euphonium, and tuba, including the Andrew Hitz Artist Model Tuba Mouthpiece. You can find out more at parkermouthpieces.com or follow them on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Let's just get right to this. This is a Thanksgiving episode where I thought that I could get a collection of people and we could just kind of talk about things that we're thankful for and, you know, talk about gratitude, which people either love or hate. So I'll get emails. It'll probably be like fall into two buckets. But let's start, before we lose him, let's start with Kevin Gebo. Kevin, where are you and what are you doing?
I'm currently in Jeju, South Korea, and we are on tour with the U.S. Army Brass Quintet.
Who are behind you right now?
Say hi again, everybody.
There they are. There they are. That's awesome. This is he said, yes, I can make it, but I'm going to be on a bus at that time in Korea. And what did you just played a show, right? At a high school?
Correct.
And you're now going sightseeing.
We're here with it's the Jeju International Wind Ensemble Festival.
Okay.
We've had 3 big concerts and we're doing 2 master classes today and sightseeing in between. And the reason that we're all alive, before I get disconnected, is Iris. Say hi, Iris. She's making sure we don't say the wrong things to the wrong people.
That is very important in all countries, and actually, I bet it would be important here. I've just never thought to have someone in that role here in America, but that would probably help.
You could use that. You need one right by you at all times.
That was enough out of you. That was my
that was Lance's job.
That was because when I think like who should I have to keep me in line, keep anyone in line, it's Lance LeDuc. Yeah, that's the ticket. So how long have you been there, Kevin?
We've been here 5 days and we leave tomorrow morning. So we're 14 hours ahead of you. So tomorrow is great. It's going well so far.
Wait, does the U.S. win their opening World Cup match against Wales?
I can't tell you. Well, unless you can make a bet for me.
That reminds me of a story that I'm not going to tell. Anyway.
Good idea. You need someone next to you.
Moving right along. All right. So let's go around the horn. Let's go directly above Kevin on my screen now is horn player extraordinaire, who is now the horn players are wondering like which one am I talking about? I noticed when I said horn player extraordinaire, they both kind of nodded like, yep, yeah, he's talking about me. No, Pilkington, I'm talking about Shelagh. So yes, Shelagh Abate, as we called her in her previous episode. How are you, Shelagh?
I'm doing great. Thank you. I'm grateful to be here. Thankful. #blessed. So good. It's great to be here and chat and talk some brass, and things in general in my world are going really well. Thank you.
That's awesome. And right now you're in Baltimore.
I am. I'm visiting my gentleman friends in Baltimore, but I am based in New York still, doing the New York thing,
right?
Such as it is.
Lots of Broadway.
And, so much Broadway. The people need their Broadway.
All the Broadway.
All the Broadway.
All right. Now to I'm going counterclockwise, which is actually a little bit chaotic. Burt. Doctor. Dr. Gebo too. I didn't call him doctor either. He's going to send me an angry text later. These people go to school for like 20 years. They need to be called doctor. Jack Burt, professor of trumpet at the University of Maine. How are you, Jack?
I'm doing great. How are you guys?
Doing great. Yeah, no complaints. I have to tell a quick story about Jack, where I texted he and his amazing wife, Marisa, like a day before Fish played this summer in Bangor, Maine, which is where Jack lived. And I'd meant to like see if we could, like, me and a few friends could crash with them if they had space, but then I spaced it and I didn't want to do it right beforehand. But then I checked hotels, and the cheapest hotel anywhere near was $1,200 for like a Hampton Inn. Like
Make and bank.
it was like $1,253 or something, and we were like, ah. So I said, hey, can we crash? And then with 24 hours notice, they threw us. I mean, it was like it was unbelievable. I mean, they took us out to
only 500 a person.
it was surreal. They took us to the lake house. Jack cooked us about 80 pounds worth of meat on the grill. We were like hanging out on rafts, like floating in the lake, and then we ate, and then drove us to the venue, dropped us off right there, and then we walked as a mile walk in perfect Maine summer night weather afterwards. It was like the whole day was like a dream. It was wonderful. And I like Jack, but I love his wife Marisa. So it was it was all good. So thank you for that. My friends were blown away by
my wife is wonderful.
Yes, she is amazing. All right, Dr. Bruce Faske, how are you?
Pretty good. How's it going?
It's going okay. Professor of trombone at Arkansas State University.
Yes.
Which I have gotten that school wrong, but I name dropped him in a previous Brass Junkies episode, and I started with the, and then it all went downhill from there. But Bruce, how are you doing?
Man, I'm doing great.
You feeling energized here in like week 12 of the semester?
Well, we actually get a week off for fall break, and that just started on Friday at for me, it started Thursday night because my wife contracted COVID finally, and so I stayed home with her to take care of her, and I got an extra day for fall break, so I'm doing quite fine. Well, and she's doing fine now too.
Good. I hope that continues to be the case. So, so you actually are relaxed since you have a week off. Yeah, this is not a normal time for college professors.
Right.
Relaxed. So speaking of college professors, not Dr. Jeffrey Pilkington, who is the principal horn of the Kennedy Center Opera Orchestra, one of the best musicians that I know from any instrument, period, but don't tell him I said that. Geoff, how are you?
Doing very well, thank you.
Yeah, we many years ago, we needed a sub in Boston Brass because J.D. Shaw I think that was like when his second kid was being born. And we had a gig down here. It was actually out in like Front Royal, and Pilkington learned the entire Boston Brass book and like absolutely like destroyed it. I mean, it like sounded like that book that JD wrote for himself is unbelievably difficult.
It's really hard.
Like all screaming high, and it hangs there, and it's like it's like features horn. Yeah, he's pretty good. And Pilkington just came and just like the rehearsals, like we just played the first tune, was just read it down. Second tune, read it down. Third tune, read it down. You get there and you're like, we could like rehearse the stuff and like break it and then fix it and feel better, I guess. But like we just plowed through it, and then the next day the show got snowed out, and then he never performed it. So and he still got paid.
So sad.
He still got paid, but it was like,
so sad.
But it was like, like school got canceled. I mean, like the hall was not open. And then when we rescheduled it, like a year plus later, it was in the middle of a tour. And so, like JD, there was no reason for him to not, there's no reason. I see someone crawling across your floor.
Yeah.
Sheila.
I don't know what you mean. What are you talking about?
I just saw the door open, and then there's a cry. Anyway, so Pilkington, that's a sad story. But we did, and he did get paid, for the gig. But like, oh man, that was that was a real bummer. So, but you just have to take our word for it that my word for it that he sounded like a horn god in rehearsal. So maybe he would have completely choked under the pressure. The guy that's like played principal on like the entire like Wagner Ring. Yeah, it's like But anyway, and sounded like a god. But anyway, So moving right along. So let's talk about it's Thanksgiving, so it's kind of like the time of year for gratitude. I wanted to hear what some people are grateful for as 2022 is coming to a close. Could be music related or not. Let's start with Kevin.
I am thankful for this whole year has been wonderful. My family's been healthy. I have two amazing kids, an amazing wife. Everyone's been doing really well. Brass Quintet's been doing great. We've done a couple tours this year and have a couple planned next year, and everything is just very good, very happy, very positive right now.
Look at you, just a ray of sunshine. There you go. Are both of your kids
sitting
and
in
your wife,
Jeju-
they're all amazing? Like there's not one that's just like really good or above, above average. They're all amazing. I mean, it's just like
They're all pretty
statistically not
spectacular.
likely. Yeah, there you go.
I know. Well, I'm the one that's not. But,
Yep.
but yeah, I'm sitting in the middle of Jeju Island. We're about to go on the water. And have you heard? We're going to watch. There's these women, and they dive daily to the bottom of they free dive, and that's how they sustain them for food to their families. And you can go watch them. So we're literally on our way. I saw a National Geographic special on them, and that's one of the things we're going to see today. And they that's what they do. They can hold their breath for like 5 minutes. They're 80 years old, and they go fishing every day, and it's pretty spectacular. So I can't complain. I'm surrounded by mountains and water. So
I think that's slightly more that I'm going to be doing at age 80. It's just a hunch.
Yeah.
So yeah. All right, Sheila, how about you?
Well, that's a tough act to follow, I have
Right?
to say. I can't hold my breath for 5 minutes, so maybe we should just stop there. I I am doing very well and grateful for a lot of things. In reflection of this last year, which I have to say has been pretty eventful, and I won't go into all the specifics, but I've had some health things happen. I have been on a brand new show, with everything picking up after the long pandemic and everything with COVID, so much uncertainty and so much change, and everyone just trying to adapt and have the rules change every day for everything. I am grateful, as strange as it may sound, I'm grateful to actually be older. I don't know if I'm speaking for anyone else, but in the freelance universe, youth it's a young person's game. And the younger, the new, the fresh, the new perspective, that those people are seen as having an edge. And so those of us who have been around for a few minutes are like, oh, TikTok, am I going to be thrown to pasture? But because of everything that happened, my age, and I'm feeling old, has put me in a position where I've been able to make some really difficult decisions that I know I would not have been up to 5, 7, 10 years ago, 15 years ago. And when I showed up in New York about 20 years ago, definitely not. And so I'm grateful to have been able to adapt and keep things in perspective to some degree. And I'm still standing. Hooray.
It's great.
That's cryptic and vague, but it's true.
No, it was nuanced. It was good. That was good. Jack.
What?
What do you what are you thankful for other than me and my 3 hippie friends showing up and sleeping on your floor and on your staircase?
Was it only 3? It felt like 10. I had completely forgotten about that, by the way. It was just like so in and out. Boom, you were gone. It was like, did that even anyways? I think Sheila touched on it, but it's like one of the things I'm just constantly like shaking my head about is how normal everything's starting to feel again. I just had a rehearsal with all my brass students, and everybody was there playing their horns in the same room with us. I mean, 2 years ago, that we weren't doing that, or a year and a half ago. I mean, it's a lot of this stuff is coming back around. I spent a weekend in Boston a couple of weeks ago. I saw BSO do Mahler 6, and I saw LA Phil do Mahler 1. And I was just sitting there, and some people were masked if they felt like it, but basically it was you could walk in and sit down and enjoy a concert again like we used to. You've known that, like over the pandemic, I had like all these back problems. I've had like 3 surgeries. I couldn't walk for more than 50 yards 2 years ago. And I've spent an entire summer playing golf, walking, and it's just, feel lucky to be like standing, like Sheila said, just being upright. I mean, health with the family and everything is good, and no complaints. And it's just great to be sitting in a room with my students again, chatting with them. In the same room. I'd forgotten about how to do all this Zoom stuff. I couldn't remember my password. I couldn't remember. I was like, oh shit, I can't remember any of this stuff. And I lived with it for a year and a half, 2 years. But we're kind of hopefully, this is the way it's going to be again. So I'm super thankful that we're living fairly normal lives again.
Please tell me that you use a password manager, right? Like 1Password or LastPass or something like that. That'll change your life, man.
No, it's like
change your life.
It's like I got a big sheet on my wall.
I saw somebody tweet, this was like maybe 5 days ago, ask your parents now for the Wi-Fi password so they have time to find the little sheet of paper by Thanksgiving, which was funny. So yeah. Anyway, all right. Bruce, how about you?
Well, I got to say, I don't want to take it down a dark road or anything, but
take it wherever it needs to be taken.
Not long after COVID started, I lost my dad, and I was thankful to have 40 years with him. And in the aftermath of that, still being on lockdown afterwards and sort of having a lot of time with my thoughts, things got pretty dark after. And in a strange way, it absolutely forced me to reevaluate what's important. And this academic journey, on a tenure track it can be absolutely brutal. It can make you second guess everything about what made you want to be a musician in the first place. And it forced me to sort of take stock and recognize that, every day is a gift and I need to enjoy everything now because today is the only thing that I know that I have. And so it sort of forced me to revamp just day-to-day life, like take time every day for some meditation and just some time alone, quiet time. We work in this aural field where everything is about noise, everything is about sound. And it's made me reevaluate and want to make the most and the best of whatever time that I'm given. And it's nice to slow down and to be able to slow down a little bit. Yeah. And I'm actually find that I'm more productive and better off just by cutting out some of the noise and the meditation every day, just taking, and I'm not lighting incense or anything like that. That's not for me, but I do just like to take some time and just start my day out, petting the basset hound and sitting and thinking about all the things that I'm thankful for. And if it had not been for that bad experience of losing him, I don't know if I would have actually stopped to, take the time to do that. And so, in a roundabout way, I'm very, very thankful for that. It's made all the difference in the world in this last year, especially coming back into normal life again. I find that I have more energy than I did when everything shut down. And
that's great. Yeah, there you go. I'm going to actually jump the line on Geoff here just because to riff off of what you just said, because it's like a little on the dark side rather than bring it back there in after 4 minutes of like untethered happiness from Pilkington. This summer, it was on Labor Day, that my father, I can't remember whether I shared about this on the podcast. I don't remember.
Facebook, you did.
Yeah, on Facebook I did. Yeah, I just don't know if it ever came up on the show, but my dad had a seizure, which he had never had before, at like 4:30 in the morning. And I happened to be up there because my parents' house is on an island in the middle of a lake in the Berkshires. And it was terrifying. Like he has sleep apnea pretty badly, and after the seizure stopped, he actually it turns out his sleep apnea kicked back in, and so he stopped breathing. And my mother was like checking for a pulse. So like there was like a full like 8 seconds or so where I thought I had just like watched my father die in front of me. And it turned out he didn't, but it was just kind of like, you can't really put that genie back in the bottle. It was really, really, really intense. So I am quite sure I did not get as much, it's not a competition, but I'm quite sure I did not get as much perspective as Bruce just shared, but I got like a big chunk of that without it actually happening because like I watched it happen, even though it hadn't happened. And so it just kind of like, everything just, everything slowed down. You know, it was like suddenly like there was a lot of things that seem real important that aren't that important. You know, it's like a cliche, like is fill in the blank life or death, and if it's not, then like we'll figure it out, right? You know, but like it's real easy for me as a friend if I'm asked to give any of you that perspective, but like when it's me and I'm living it, it's a lot harder for me to apply that to me than it is to one of you or to a student or to my son or, you know, like whatever. So but I don't usually learn from subtle stuff. I usually learn from things going boom, you know. So like when Gebo makes like huge life mistakes, you know, I learn from them. So yeah, actually I haven't known him to make any, which is why I used him as the joke. But anyway, all right, so enough with the darkness, unless Pilkington is going to go dark too, and I just don't know it. So Geoff, what do you got to say?
I'm very grateful. I had some similar experiences to what was mentioned by a few other people, but interestingly, we, as you know, Andrew, my family moved to New Zealand for 6 months,
Right,
and actually
right.
we only came back to the States at the beginning of this year, at the beginning of 2022, and that was a very interesting experience, and it started by us looking for a chance to do some work where there was none really available and why everything was sort of shut down with COVID here in the States. And we went to New Zealand where they didn't have any COVID. And then the joke was on us because about 2 weeks after we arrived, they had their first case and the country locked down completely. So there was definitely no work going on. But I mean, of all the places to be locked down, it was really gorgeous. But it was really wonderful too, because it was sort of a timeout and a beautiful like interlude in our family life and a respite from the sort of go lifestyle. And we had every day had this opportunity to enjoy with the family. And you know, we have 2 young boys, and my wife went out there, and so we had every day we would go for a hike or go to a beach or explore. I mean, that when I said it was locked down, we couldn't leave the boundary of Auckland, but Auckland's quite huge. And so there was a lot to explore, which was great. And it had its frustrations for sure. But it allowed us to sort of reorient around what was important and try to retain that. And I think that I'm grateful for that experience, you know, at that moment in our lives. And we've tried to take that forward now that we're back in the States and things seem to be go again.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful for the opportunity to be able to work again and to reconnect with so many people in person, and have all of my students play together in one room, kind of like what Jack was saying, and play in large format pieces. And I think that probably everyone in this chat and well beyond that, you would take a different perspective and gratitude for that we never really had before the great pause, so to speak. And so I'm just trying to retain that perspective this year, and I'm grateful to have had those opportunities.
Yeah, it's it really is kind of crazy how it went from just like everything completely shut down to it feels like just everything is on blast again. You know, I mean, it's like just feels like we could maybe like hang out in the middle for, you know, like I don't know, like 3 months where everybody just agrees. It's like we're back, but not really. You know, I really miss, you know, my son did a whole he did a little over a year of online school, and every Monday was asynchronous. So he had to check in for 20 minutes, and then he had like 15 minutes worth of like homework to do. I mean, he was in first grade. And then we went to Shenandoah National Park like almost every single Monday. I mean, we went like 30 times in the course of a year. And I don't tend to go in the summer because it's too hot here. No one should live here in the summer ever. So I go and bother people like Jack and Marisa. Yeah, when I go and see my favorite hippie band, wherever they are. But you know, it was amazing. It was just like Nicholas and I in the woods, you know, and he just like make stuff up, like make up business ideas and like, you know, talk to me about them for like 45 straight minutes without taking a breath as we're hiking up a mountain. I'm just going, you know, it's like, I kind of miss that because now it's like piano lessons and it's like, you know, and teaching lessons and gigs and this, and it's great that a lot of it's back, but it's, it's kind of wild how how busy things have gotten. So here's another gratitude question, but it's a specific one. Do you have a mentor that you are particularly grateful for? I mean, it could be somebody that's still around or not around anymore. Let's mix up the order a little bit here. Let's start with Jack.
I shared this story on my Brass Junkies thing, but I think it was in the
no one listened to that. So
yeah,
and
besides, it was in the bonus coverage part.
There you go.
So we know nobody heard it. But the only reason I bring this up is that because I relate it to my students all the time. Is I got my doctorate at the University of Texas with Ray Crisera. And I got there, I was 28, 29 when I started with him, because I took a year off before I got my master's, and then 3 years in Mexico. But I came there with, I was a pretty good player, but I had some gaps in my playing, and they were very frustrating for somebody who was, in a hurry. And at one point I was playing something and I just put my horn down, and I wanted to curse, but you don't curse in front of Mr. Crisera. So he said, Jack, what's the matter? And I said, Mr. Crisera, I should be able to do this already. And he laid into me like I've never heard anybody get yelled at by him as much as I was at that moment. And he said, Jack, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard a student say in my entire career. So I have that going for me, which is good, right? And he says, what does that do to help you to say that to yourself? All you can do is face what you're doing today and take the next step. You can't look back. You're going to tell me your story that you told me, but he's like, all you can do is face the problem right now and take the next step. Right? As he put it, he says, isn't that right? And, all my students, they get so frustrated about not being able to play something. I'm like, don't think about the end. Think about what's next. What's the next thing you need to do? And one other thing just is, I think it may have been with Tom Hooten and you did a Tom Hooten one where he talked about how he got good, because he wasn't necessarily good coming out of college. Mm-hmm. And the logic of how he's applied himself to improve his playing is astonishing. Yeah. And he was like, that's what Mr. Crisera was preaching. He's like, what's next? Only worry about what's next. Don't worry about where you are in the race. Yeah. So I mean, that was in 1988, right? Oh. And I'm telling this story twice a week now still. So that's how important it was to me.
That's powerful. That's the power of a great teacher right there.
Whoa, wait.
Uh-oh. Oh, this is not going to end well.
It's got to brew some more coffee.
Yeah. It sounds like a snowblower.
I put this on my door after our thing.
What? Abandon all hope for a better past. See that? Yeah. See, you heard me say that, but anytime I say anything that's that brilliant, it's quoting someone else. Yeah, I've never come up with anything that's even remotely that. But
that's a good one. It was the first time I heard it, so it's okay.
That's a good one. Speaking of brilliant, Gebo, what do you got here? You got a mentor you want to talk to us about? Ooh, right as he froze.
He's alive again.
Gebo, do you hear me? You got a mentor you want to talk about? It's like, I've been watching him. It was perfect. There's like no connection issue whatsoever. And now it's like a mugshot. It's like, have you seen this man? He robbed an Orange Julius at the Hoboken Mall. See, now I might cut this out and I might not. We'll have to see. All right. Let's see. How about let's go with Bruce. Bruce, who has wonderful internet. Thank you for being professional enough to have good internet, Bruce.
My mentor goes way, way back. It's Don Lucas, who's actually at Boston University now. But when I knew Don, he was one of my high school band directors for 1 year, freshman year of high school. And I was lost as a kid. I had not found the thing in life that I really felt like I was good at. And I mean, I average on everything. And then Don came along and was there every day. And luckily my mom had to work late. So I was in the band room every day after school. So Don injected me with this enthusiasm for the instrument and just, you can do this. And it was amazing. It was just one of those things in life where right place, right time. And just got off the phone with him a couple of days ago, and he's going to be here for a guest artist shot on the way to TMEA in February.
Wonderful.
And it was just one of those situations in life where you come across someone that just changes the trajectory of your life. And
that's awesome.
And it's been, I mean, that was 1994. And all these years later, I never studied with him in college. I kick myself for that. But yeah, it's just amazing to me how that came together in just a strange way in this little farm town in Southeast Texas.
Oh, that's wonderful. There you go. Sheila, how about you?
Well, for me, I incidentally, Bruce, I also know Don Lucas, who is lovely and wonderful, and I love that he's your mentor, because he's a great guy and a great musician. I feel very fortunate to have had many mentors in my life, a lot of positive experiences with some brilliant musicians of many instruments. But in the last year or so, in light of a lot of things that we've already talked about tonight, there is one particular former teacher of mine that I've been channeling. I don't know if all of you know who Richard Sebring is, Gus Sebring with the Boston Symphony. He is one of my teachers, and has, over the years I'm incredibly humbled to call him a colleague, because we've worked together in different capacities. But when I was studying with him, which was a very intense time at NEC, he said in the context of our lessons so many isms that I draw from to this day. And particularly, actually, Bruce, it was you that used the word noise before, and not noise in the brass way, but life noise. Gus Sebring is like the least noisy human that I've ever met. He is always calm and poised and dignified. He plays like
people said about me.
Well, I can understand that.
What's so funny, Sheila?
Yeah. But I mean, he's an unbelievable player. But in terms of his being a mentor, and obviously his playing is inspiring, and has it's changed the way I play, and I try and sound like him every day. But in terms of the guidance that he provided was just always so calm. So, whenever I feel the need for calm or any kind of centering or perspective, or he's the guy that I think about. And there was this one moment, this was several years ago. I was doing the Atlantic Brass Quintet seminar with Triton. And I want to say it was maybe like 2014, and we were at Tufts that summer. And I had my chops were just feeling destroyed, beat up between the shows that I was playing in New York, and then weeks that I love of quintet. But God, it's a lot of playing. And I was feeling a little bit smashed up, and we invited Gus to do a masterclass for our students that summer, and he did. And he and I were having a conversation, just seated casually in the foyer of one of the buildings at Tufts University. And I said to him, and I felt so stupid saying, like, what do you do when you're really beat up? And I'm thinking to myself, I'm embarrassed, because it's like, he never gets beat up, of course he does, but he doesn't act like it, and he doesn't sound like it. So his problems can't be like my problems. But I asked him anyway, and and as unpathetic as I could muster, I was like, so what do you do when you're totally fried, And he took a moment, he took a beat before he answered my question, which is something, by the way, like I've never done in my life. So that alone, I was like, oh my God.
I did it once. It was so awkward. I never did it ever again. It was so unnatural. I was like, no.
Just that pause was like,
great.
And his answer was simply, I manage.
How about that?
And I was like,
That's brilliant.
rather than like, oh, well, this will drink water and get some sleep and no alcohol and, more long toms, warm up, warm, just like you manage, So there you go.
There you go.
Long live Gus Sebring for the win.
So Gebo dropped off. He texted that he has a great mentor story, but that he'll have to share it next time because he also got to his arrival. He got to his arrival. See, what was Bruce just talking about? We're always at our arrival. We've arrived at this moment right here, and we can never arrive anywhere other than now. Yeah. Anyway, Pilkington, what you got?
I'm particularly grateful for my mentor, Carolyn Wall, who was also my first horn teacher. And she's a longtime third horn of the Florida Orchestra, recently retired. And I was talented enough to, get into All-State and things, but I really procrastinated on practicing. And she was a great teacher for me, and I was learning a lot, but I wasn't that into the concept of I didn't want to be a musician. I didn't have any of those goals or aspirations. And she every year was trying to get me to join the local youth symphony, and I would just say no. And that was frustrating to her, I think, but she never really she had a way of not pushing you into something that you weren't ready to do or that you didn't want to do. She was very wise and knew that wouldn't be the right way to actually inspire a student. And I was equally interested in sports, and so I was just sort of I would show up to my lessons and I would work hard, but I wouldn't really go past that. And I had studied piano earlier in life, and so that was the basis so far for music. And finally she convinced me to join her at Kinhaven Music School in Western Vermont, which I know this summer you were there for the first time, right?
I sure was. It was amazing.
So,
I got to meet her for the first time.
Oh, you did meet her. Okay.
She's lovely. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, she's great.
So I agreed to go, and this was the summer after my 8th grade year. And I asked her after a concert that she had come to that I was playing in. She was mentioning someone else that Geoff's finally going to get in the summer. And I turned to her, I said, "You're going to try to brainwash me this summer, aren't you?" And she didn't actually say any words. She just chuckled. That was it. And I was like, okay, something's gonna go on, and my experience, she knew the right places to put me, that I would sort of have a certain experience. And that was at Kinhaven for me, which completely changed. I think, Bruce, the way that you said something like you met someone that changed your trajectory in life, and that was Carolyn for me. By the way that she had guided me and mentored me. And Kinhaven showed me what music was in terms of communication with others in chamber music, and really expressing emotions and stories to an audience and connecting with them. And I saw the other side of it. It was no longer technique. How do you play this note? How do you get through this piece? It was oh, this is what music is, and this is now I understand that, and I want to do this for the rest of my life. And from that moment on, I practiced willingly and devoted everything towards it. And that was the greatest magic trick she ever pulled. And so I'm very grateful because and then she was able to continue being a great teacher, and to this day I consider her a mentor.
Oh, that's wonderful. Boy, there's a long list of horn players over the last few decades who list her as somebody really important in their life. It was I kind of felt like I was meeting brass royalty, which was very cool. And she was just yeah, you could tell that she is just very genuine, yeah, it was great. Yeah, Kinhaven, I did, I taught a lesson for the tuba player there, who was wonderful, and then did a master class where I coached a bunch of chamber groups. And I remember that I mentioned Sam Palafian, and I wasn't even talking about him passing. I just mentioned Sam, and then I almost started crying. He'd been dead for 3.5 years, and he would find that very funny. That I'm just normal day, and then I'm almost crying. And I'm what the? Come on, what the hell? Come on, yeah. So anyway, so my I wasn't planning on, because everybody's heard me talk about Sam for thousands of hours at this point. But and that's if you've only listened to a handful of Brass Junkies episodes. But in terms of Bruce just being in the right place at the right time, the first time that I met Sam, and this story does make me cry, so maybe now I won't if I just say that. But like when I saw Empire when I was 12 and met him afterwards, and just the way he talked to me, he spent like, I don't know if it was 3 minutes or if it was 8 minutes. I mean, it was not 20, it wasn't 30. I mean, it was like standing there like right after Empire had just finished a gig. And all I know is that I left that conversation with him not thinking that I could do what he did for, did in front of me, like play the quintet in a, tuba in a professional quintet. But like that, I left positive that I could do what he did someday. And like, I was just like, yeah, like why can't I be the next Sam Palafian? And the answer is because there isn't going to be another Sam Palafian ever, but there's not going to be another Jack Burt or another Shelagh. There's like not going to be another anybody, but yeah, that was like, talk about empowering, and it's not like I walked away like realizing that that's what I felt, but that's totally what I felt, where I was just kind of like, okay, like he's old. He's like, when I met him, he was significantly younger than I am now, which is hilarious to me. So it's like, it's funny how that works. But I left that like positive that I could do that someday. And then like, and I worked my ass off, but then also like a crazy number of things all broke right at the right time in the right way. And then I ended up traveling the world in the brass quintet, which is wild. The person that I was going to mention actually has nothing to do with music. His name is Bill Schechter. He was a high school history teacher of mine. And he basically taught me critical thinking. And it's not like I completely lacked it. I took 2 classes from him, junior and senior years of high school. So it's not like I couldn't think critically before then. But like, he had a class where, and he had and still has some really strong political beliefs, of which I align with almost every single one of them. But he was open to any ideas. But even if you agreed with him, you had to be able to articulate why you agree, or agreed with him. And he was not holding us to a high school standard. And I mean this in a good way, like just like intellectually, he was, at that age, like, I don't know about you all, but I just like desperately wanted to be treated like an adult. It's like, I'm 16, like, at this point, like I'm getting my license, like I'm gonna, treat me like an adult. And he did. It wasn't like, he wouldn't let you regurgitate even in the right order and in the, like in a good way, like talking points that he had given you. He'd be like, why? And he would try, I don't think I ever got higher than a B on any paper I ever wrote for him. And I was an all A and B student. But I also never wrote like a great paper. I like never took the time. And I was like driving into Boston 3 times a week, which was 40 minutes away, or riding throughout high school for a youth wind ensemble at NEC and youth orchestra at BU, and then lessons with Julian Dixon, on Tuesday evenings. It's like my priorities were where they needed to be. But it's like, that's actually a good lesson. It's like, I adored his class, but I never gave like my all to that class, because I didn't give my all to anything that wasn't tuba related. And so he was like, that's a B. Like you're a bright kid, and that was a pretty good paper, but like that's not as good as you could have done. So that shouldn't be an A. It's like, and it frustrated me at the time, not super actively, but again, he just and he did not teach the great man. It's called the great man theory because the great man theory pretty much only studies men. So that one does not need to get relabeled. It's like, because it's not ideal. But it's like, the point is, it's like studying like big events and big people only. He was all about like zeitgeist and like themes through history, and just kind of like, why the events that happened. And so it's not like he skipped the events, but it wasn't just like, this act was passed in this year. It was like what led to it. It was the undercurrent. It was all that stuff. So, and that's made me a better musician too, because like if you're in a functional chamber ensemble, then you need to be able to like to speak and say like why you think something should be played the way that it is, and not just like because Sam played it on a recording in 1979. Who gives a shit? Like, right? I mean, like, he's not here, right? And even if he was on this call tonight, like, that's nice. That's how he played it in 1979. That's probably not the way he'd play it now anyways. I mean, it's just like, it's irrelevant. You got to be able to articulate why you think, but then also be open to other ideas. I mean, it's all kind of the same thing. So to Bill Schechter, I need to give him a call. It's been a very, very, very long time. So yeah. So, and he grew up in the Bronx, and he did not root for the Yankees by the time he was a high school teacher in Boston. So, it's like proof that people can change. So, and for the better. Speaking of changing, I should mention Jim Nova. I actually I don't know what that means. That was an intentionally awkward segue. Wanted to talk about Duquesne, the Mary Pappert School of Music at Duquesne University. Pittsburgh is a really, really hip town for music, for art. People that bash Pittsburgh have not been there. It's really great, and the faculty at the Mary Pappert School of Music, the brass faculty in particular, is incredible. James Gourlay is just an unbelievable tuba player. Jim, teaches trombone. Micah Wilkinson. I mean, it's like there's a really an amazing brass faculty there. They have a very, very hip program in a great place to be a young musician. They got the River City Brass Band. It's like the only, to my knowledge, full time brass band in America is right there, which a lot of students end up eventually getting to to play with. It's fantastic. So if you go in the show notes, there is a link to them, which there's a page that they've set up where Jim even put on like a nice shirt to talk about the school. So he really went the extra mile. So you should. It's only like a minute, so you should watch it. So and it's like complete sentences. All the the verbs are conjugated correctly. It's like he really went above and beyond on this video. So so anyway, thank you to the Duquesne School of Music and the Duquesne School of Music and the Mary Pappert University. It is not the order that those words go in. All right, so this has been awesome. This has been really, really great. I'm really digging this. Let's ask one more question here. What was your favorite concert in 2022, either that you performed or that you attended? Or if it's, or you could go with one of either if you would like. And I'm going to put Pilkington on the spot because I don't think he's gone first yet.
Okay. Well, actually, can I do one of each?
Yeah, please.
My favorite that I attended this year was actually at Kinhaven. I went back for the first time this summer, and I taught all the students during the day, and then I attended the student performance that evening, and I had not been back in, I guess, 22 years, and I was just filled with all these wonderful memories of when I was a student and reconnected with all of the reasons that made me want to become a musician. And it was a very beautiful experience to be able to see the students performing, and I was there with my kids and I got to experience that too. So
that's awesome.
That was my favorite one.
We only missed each other by like 3 days or something.
I know,
yeah, that was a bummer. That would have been fun.
And my favorite performance that I was a part of this year was performing Bruckner 9 in the Music Verein with Cleveland Orchestra. That was pretty special.
Okay, name dropper.
Sorry.
That's amazing. There you go. Yeah. I forget. It's funny. I just every once in a while, you're like, oh yeah, I played principal with the New York Phil this week. It's like, yeah, of course you did. Yeah, I should get used to this. Like, and I'm always like, hey man, what have you been up to? I always ask. It's not like he's like, hey, Hitz, guess who I played with this week? So, we're good enough friends. He could do that. But that's incredible. What was that like?
Well, it was actually one of the final performances on a almost 3-week long tour in Europe, and it had started by performing in Cleveland first, and there was an all Strauss concert as well. But it was just like everything had really gelled, and that was a performance space that I've just like always wanted to be in, And I've seen many performances there. I've attended one in person, and you've seen them on TV or listened to them and all that. But it was really fun to be a part of a performance like that with a group sounds incredible. So
there you go.
That was very special.
Well, that's probably the most impressive concert like on the screen in terms of performing. I'm glad I started with that, so now we can all feel less than. That's really nice of you, Geoff. Let's see here. Let's go to again, it's an either or question. How about Jack? What do you got?
I'll do both as well.
Okay, great.
Apparently I heard the wrong Bruckner 9 because I heard Bruckner 9 this year in Vienna with Dresden and Telemann, and it wasn't very good. I'm sorry, Telemann, it's not my cup of tea. I would much rather have heard Cleveland.
Now is when we need Pilkington to unmute and be like, oh, actually, I played with them on that show too. Yeah, it's like you got to be careful with Pilkington. He's like, oh yeah, that's San Francisco Symphony. Yeah, I played that week. Yeah, it's like, of course
wasn't
you
the
did.
orchestra. It wasn't the orchestra. No. Well, I spent a couple of weeks in Vienna. You know how I go there sometimes, and I saw a bunch of concerts. But the one that really got me was I saw Oslo, and their new conductor, the Mekala, Klaus Mekala, the young kid, and he did a Sibelius cycle, and he did 3 and 5, and it was just astonishing because especially 3, strangely enough, and the piece I didn't know very well before the last couple of years, that orchestra loves him, and they played their hearts out, and it was like my first concert that I've gone to post pandemic. And I don't know if you know Sibelius 3, but there's a movement, the slow movement in there is one of the most beautiful, longing, beautiful pieces in the world. And they played the shit out of it. And it was just wonderful. And I literally wept because I was sitting in a hall listening to music again, you know, and it was wonderful. And it was great, awesome. But it was also kind of like the emotion of the moment. And then I got to play a recital again, finally, after 2.5 years. I played a recital and it didn't suck. And so I enjoyed myself. You know, it's not always easy. I tell my students a trumpet recital is kind of it's an unnatural event, unnatural act. We're not really meant to do this because it's an hour of just us. It's like being screamed at in some ways. But I picked a lot of music I really liked, you know, Mahler songs, Schumann songs, nice stuff, and had a great time. So it was, again, this sense of being normal, being super special, you know, playing my trumpet for people with a great colleague, playing piano, and then hearing a concert.
I did not hear a word you said after you compared a trumpet recital to getting screamed at for an hour.
Well, come on, let's face it, you know, it is trumpet music.
That's hilarious. That's that's really funny. There's nothing I enjoy more than when a good friend releases a trumpet album and then I say it's really good, but there was just like a little bit too much trumpet on it. You know, it's like, just, you know, if you'd like thrown in, you know, like a little trombone or some cello or something, you know, it's just like trumpet and then more trumpet. Although I'd rather listen to most trumpet albums than most tuba albums. But moving right along, Bruce, how about you?
Mine is actually they're one and the same because I only played on part of the show. I'm really proud of our orchestra in Little Rock. It's a good little orchestra, and you know, again, the common theme here is that we're sort of getting back into normal from, you know, all the shutdown time. We had Gil Shaham originally on the books to come in 2020. That didn't happen, so he finally came in February of this last year, and we also had Chaik 5 on the show. And Chaik 5. All right. So I've done it, you know, it's the national anthem of the regional orchestra. We've done it a lot, and
that's great. I love that. That's an awesome line.
That's funny.
It's cool. And I've done it a few times, but and sort of, you know, roll my eyes a little bit at doing it again, but to be on the stage and to get to do it, it was a fresh perspective because, you know, I didn't know how long it was going to be until I could play it again. And it was just really great. It was a great release from all of that. And we got in trouble a few times. That's okay. You know, we got in trouble a few times for it being a little too, we channeled our Charlie Vernon, but then to be, to be in the first half, to sit out in the audience and listen to him play and listen to him connect with an audience was tremendous. And then to be able to go the second half and play and just let it all out. And it was tremendously cathartic, and I had a great time with it. And I'll never look at those pieces, maybe with the exception of 1812, but everything else, you know, a fresh set of ears and eyes and, you know, a new perspective on getting to do all that again. So that was pretty cool.
Wow. That's great. Sheila, how about you?
Well, I'm gonna take a hard left turn here, and tell you about a concert that I attended. It sounds like everyone went to Vienna, and I also went to Vienna this summer, which was amazing. And I just went as a tourist. I've never been, and as no one was really allowed to travel for a long time, I was so psyched to go anywhere. And I had a week off from the show, and I selected Vienna and Salzburg to do in 7 days. And I did a little bit of research, not too much. I didn't want to overplan, but I picked a couple of concerts at random that I could attend and bought tickets ahead of time. And so, sidebar, one of my favorite things in life is when my expectations for something are set for whatever reason, high, low, medium, whatever those expectations are, and then the thing happens and I'm wrong. I am so far off. So to explain what I mean by that, so I bought tickets to this Mozart Orchestra of Vienna Mozart Orchestra, and the way that it's advertised online and in their materials, it looks very much like the Vienna equivalent of like the Radio City Music Hall Orchestra in New York, which, trust me, is a baller orchestra. I mean, it's a great band, but it's very touristy. It's a spectacle. It's a product. And when I went to Cuba, I went to the Tropicana. And so this was kind of like my Vienna version of like, oh, this is like a taste of Vienna. I have to go, and I was thinking it was going to be kitschy. And I was thinking, because they're all wearing wigs and they're wearing the outfits. And yes, they're playing period instruments and they're serving booze. And it's like, woo, it sounds great. I can't wait. And I was like ready to party. And I walked in there and I was bawling like a half a movement in, because they sounded incredible. And it's not like I expected it to be bad. I mean, hello, it's Vienna, but it was a great orchestra in a great hall playing impeccably. It was, and I guess it wasn't that I expected it to be bad. I just wasn't thinking it was going to be what it was. I was thinking it was going to be a little bit more schlocky and, gimmicky. And so I spent the entire concert crying, and they played some amazing things, and they were wearing wigs and they looked great, and the horns were playing Vienna horns, and God, they sounded good. And oh my God, it was transcendent, and I wasn't expecting it to be so. And so it was really, really special.
That's great. Yeah, playing period instruments, I'm gonna get some emails for this. Playing period instruments to me is like, just like you're a professional figure skater and you're like, I'm gonna wear a pair of skates from the 1920s. Like, that's what I'm gonna do. Like, yeah. And then you still skate like your ass off, but it's like, yeah. Right. Anyway, if you want to email anybody about that, you should go to Bruce's faculty page, because he just laughed a lot at that. So at Arkansas State University, you can let him know how offensive that was. For me, the concert that's been the most rewarding was a no-brainer, was my friend's wedding, where the band was my friend John Butte, who is one of the most brilliant musicians I know. He's an elementary school music teacher outside of Baltimore. We went to Northwestern together. He's a bass player. He plays the trumpet. He plays a guitar, and he sings unbelievably. He has a band called Butte and Friends, which I play in the horn section with all the three horns and him. We all went to Northwestern together, and we all ended up in DC, which is really neat. But our friends are friends with the drummer for Fish, John Fishman, and so he was at the wedding. And he came up and joined us on like 4 tunes, and it was unbelievable. I mean, it was like, yeah, it was really, really surreal, because he's not just he in particular, he's one of like the 2 guys in that band. I mean, like, there's, in terms of performers, he's easily in my top 10, if not in my top 5 of any instrument of any genre, in terms of how it's had an impact on me as a musician, and on what I've done in brass quintets and what I've done, as a soloist, etc. And so to get to like play with him was completely surreal. I'd never even met him before, and then I got to play with him because I came in from another gig. I came in on 2 wheels, and I was on time, but I didn't even get to like meet him beforehand. So we actually played together before I even got a chance to say hello and to thank him for everything. So that was really surreal. And then of course my answer. It's funny. Not every year you would think you could joke and it would be funny because you would think it would be true all the time that I would answer a Phish show. But this year it is laughably was a Phish show, and that's because due to COVID, last year's New Year's Eve run, where they play the 28th through the 31st every December, it's almost always at Madison Square Garden. 2021, that was when there was that huge surge in New York, and they postponed those shows, and they ended up rescheduling them for Madison Square Garden for April 20th, 21st, 22nd, and 23rd. And sorry, this year was supposed to be 29 through the 1st. So New Year's Eve was the third night. Anyway, they rescheduled the New Year's run for April. So they did a New Year's show on April 22nd. So there was which was totally surreal. It was so there was a 3-set show with the antics, but you might have seen this because it went full viral because they turned Madison Square Garden into a giant ocean. I mean, it's even, you should Google it because it's stunning. They had drones of dolphins and a giant whale that were floating around the garden. They even had way up high. They had some sort of a smoke machine way at the top of MSG with lasers going across it, which made it look like the top of the water for the ocean. So it made you feel like you were underwater. And this is all while the band was doing this just completely transcendent improv on top of this. It was it was like performance art. It was completely surreal. And these guys all live in absolute mansions. I mean, they're mega millionaires at this point, and they're still pushing boundaries artistically. I mean, they could just go out and play a handful of songs that everybody knows and loves, and they could charge a lot of money and sell out MSG like that. And they're taking artistic risks. And there was it was really fascinating watching Twitter. There were people melting down about how cool that was, who had never heard of Phish or who knew of them and didn't really care for them, but was this is one of the coolest things I've ever seen, which was really kind of cool. So it was very monosal. It really, it's that they are very monosal, where monosal could just I mean, they couldn't because it would be so off-brand, but they could in some ways just learn a show of greatest hits and just keep playing that. And every time they came to the States, they'd sell everywhere out. But those guys, they're just constantly morphing artistically, constantly moving things forward. That's really, really admirable, because it's that's hard. It's a pain in the ass to create stuff from scratch over and over and over again when you don't need to financially. And they do that. And that's really admirable. And why I've made some career decisions, when things get stale, it's sometimes you gotta make the jump, and just say, I've had enough of this. Not in a bad way or in a burn in a bridge way, but anyway. So there you go. So
that's why you're hosting solo, right? You burned a bridge.
That is exactly it. Yeah. We both had a written agreement, Lance and I both, that we were going to say publicly that we ended completely amicably. Yep. No, we just had a major falling out. I've tired of looking at his face. It's just kind of, it just makes me really grind my teeth, and I just need a break. I just need a break from Lance's face. So, this is, and actually for anybody who, I keep forgetting that, there are some people that listen to or watch every episode and then others that don't. Lance told me over a year in advance that he was just he's got the 7-year itch thing, for everything. I mean, that's about how long he was in the Air Force Band. That's how long he was in that's how long he was in River City. That's how long he was in Boston Brass. That's how long his first marriage should have lasted. There were, and it lasted almost triple that, but but moving right along, but it's and so it was just he's in the best way possible. He's always looking for the next thing. It's just kind of that's how he's wired. And to be honest, there wasn't really any tension left for him and I doing this together, just because we could finish each other's sentences. If he was ever low energy, with unspoken, not even in the chat, privately, I could just sense it. And I just kind of pick up the, I mean, and so it's it's definitely different. There's another new co-host next week. I mean, I'm just kind of experimenting with different formats and stuff, and there's like a lot of possibilities. So there's going to be some like, two people talking to me at once, two people that know each other professionally, or I'm going to, maybe ask somebody who I want to interview who is the person that you would want to talk to the most, and then kind of like, and so there's a lot of different directions that I can go in, and some of those are going to like really have traction, and then others won't. And that's the beauty of running your own thing, though, is you can just figure out what I like and what the audience likes, and then you go there, and then, it's so, yeah, so it's exciting. But and I don't have to look at Lance's face anymore. So, and that poor guy has to look every mirror, it's there. I mean, it's like, we got to keep him in our thoughts. I might actually pray for Lance. Yes, I might actually I might send him
a new era for Brass Junkies.
Yes, a new. I'm referring to the first 200 episodes as season 1. So, and this is now season 2. So, yes. Anyway, this has been awesome. Thank you all. Like, what great stories and great answers. I mean, in terms of like the gratitude thing and the mentor thing. I could listen to everybody talk about mentors, and it's funny. No one noticed. And I did actually. This is once in a row that I actually sent out questions ahead of time, because I just didn't want to I was going to feel bad whoever I said was first. Like the rest of it are fine. You can just kind of think about it. But I did send out a list. But like the mentor thing, that's a question no one needs any advance notice for whatsoever. It's like everyone is instantly ready to tell the story that Jack told about that lesson and getting yelled at, and Bruce with Don being in the right place, right? It's like everybody's got those stories ready to go, because anybody, especially those of us who have been lucky enough to get a lot of traction in this business, had like a ton of help to get here, and just a ton of help. So Jack, Sheila, Jeffrey, I love the full name. It sounds very, very, very official. Bruce, thank you all. And I'm going to have them hang out actually for the bonus episode. Geoff might have to bounce, but we'll see. But we're going to have everybody stick around for the bonus episode, which is going to be available to our Patreon patrons. I gave them all warning. I'm going to bust out the book of questions here to put them on the spot here a little bit, which we won't go crazy long, but it'll be good. We're going to go until someone crawls across the back of Sheila's screen again. So that's going to be if that takes 2 hours. That's
so it in like I was going to say in 7 seconds. He'll be back by.
There were times when Mrs. LeDuc would tiptoe in, like not realizing that she was just fully on camera. It's like, you can just come in. It's fine. She would always be like delivering the dog, right. Like when she was going out, but it was like, we can see you. And Lance would just keep right on talking. So, all right, this has been wonderful. Thank you to all of you. I genuinely have gratitude for all of you. I just came up with this idea. I was like, because I've got an episode in the can, and then I realized it's like ready to go, and I was like, wait a minute, it's going to be Thanksgiving, and Lance and I have done like Andrew and Lance give thanks, and I was like, I need to just get a collection of people. And and Chuck Kerrigan said he was going to be here, and then he was like, oh, I forgot I have family flying in, so he bailed at the very last minute. I think he was just worried that I was going to make fun of him because the Giants lost to the Lions today, which is like, it's not easy to do. So he said, go ahead and make fun of me. He said, I was so mad during that game, I was making up swear words. That's literally what the text that he sent me. So love you, Chuck. And thank you to all of you. If you want to gain access to this bonus episode, it's patreon.com/thebrassjunkies. And you can help support the show and keep things going. And that is going to do it for this episode of The Brass Junkies.